How's it going, guys? So in this video, we will be unboxing the SRAM Professional Bleed Kit for dot fluid. And I bought this bleed kit originally for my gravel bike, which is behind, the Giant TCX. So the TCX had a Apex 1x setup, and I needed to service the brake. Unfortunately, I have decided to sell the bike, so I'm not gonna do any adjustments to the TCX. However, if you look in front, I just recently bought this specialized stump jumper comp alloy, and this one had a SRAM Guide R 4-piston brake that probably needs a good bleed. So this is the perfect time to actually, I think, unbox this and give you guys an overview of what is included in this professional bleed kit. And also, we're gonna be bleed using DOT 5.1 fluid from Liquimoly. This is a German company, but this fluid is actually made in UK. I bought it at AutoZone for I think around $9. Only 8 fluid ounce, but I think that's enough for at least 2 to 3 brake full bleeds. Okay, so if you want to go slightly more budget friendly, get the DOT 4 fluid. That's gonna be at least $3 to $4 cheaper, and you're gonna have more fluid of around at least 12 ounce for around, you know, $7 to $8. Okay, so taking a look at the kit, let's see. The main feature of this bleed kit is this very heavy duty, no compression syringe. This is again, I think SRAM just slapped the sticker on here, but it's a good quality syringe. If you guys know the make and model, you can probably get this elsewhere. However, the mounting mechanism is SRAM specific, so if you want to get the best, most reliable one, you probably just want to order this kit. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys what's inside. Quite a lot of stuff included in here. Okay, so you have some user manuals, stealth Majig. This is the SRAM's like those little red things you're seeing here. This is for compression fitted brake hose, and they included a few in here at no additional charge, which I think is great. And they also included a those fitting needle kind of a hose. I'm gonna show you guys once I put this camera on the tripod. All right, just flipped my camera, so let's take a better physical look at those components. Again, I was showcasing this little syringe right here. Okay, pretty good. You have a whole bunch of different sizes of bleeding blocks, and you just have to find out which bleeding block fits your particular needs, but it's all right here. Those Stealth Magic are included. I think there's at least 4 of those with 4 hose connector port right here for you guys to see. So yeah, plenty to bleed to, or like if you need to change the brake hose length, those are needed. Okay, so I think it's enough for one job, 2 brakes. Okay, so because you have 4 of those, but you can also order this separately somewhere else. Stealth Magic on the side, and those bleeding blocks, again, it's got different sizes. There's a large, there is a medium, and this is the Guide Ultimate bleeding block. So different bleeding blocks have different thickness, so you have to really take that into consideration. They included pretty much everything that SRAM ever made, and also a bleeding block for Avid. So you don't have to spend money to buy those bleeding blocks anymore if you have different kind of brakes. And also this little tool right here, I think that's to grab onto the rotor. So you got a split over there, so it grabs onto the rotor and then it locks things in place for different kinds of brakes. Over here is a bleed block for something else like pad spacer. Those are all what's included in here. So you definitely is not gonna need any kind of additional bleed block. Okay, this is another one. You don't need another bleed block purchase because this professional bleed comes with it. Usually those blocks are selling for like $15–20, so quite expensive. And this bleed kit I got without the dot fluid included for about 70 bucks. I think I ordered from Backcountry, so that's where I got it. Dot fluid, again, 8 ounce is about 9 bucks. So to make sense, you probably should have just purchased, or I probably should have just purchased the bleed kit with the dot fluid, okay? Let's take a look at the other side of the syringe. So this is also the reason to buy the SRAM professional kit. That is, all the tools for servicing your brakes are included, every possible tool. And also, they come with additional hardwares for the bleed kit, the O-rings to replace anything on here that's broken out. So that's also a huge plus. So you have additional kits to service it in the long run. And all those included attachments are very, very high quality, okay? Those are for bleeding the traditional brake hose, okay? So one end is gonna be used for the lever, and the other end, depending on your brake, if you have a newer brake, this is a bleeding edge bleeding tool for the caliper, and if you have an older brake, this is the traditional lever brake lever connector that you can also use for the caliper, okay? Doesn't make much difference, but this bleeding edge is slightly easier to use, okay? Both of those comes with a little red like stopping thing that you can stop the hose. Those hoses are also high quality. It's very compression. It's very hard, so there's not going to be much compression when you try to compress it. I know if you buy cheaper Amazon, bleeding kits, it's going to have a very soft hose right here, and also the syringe is not going to be nearly anywhere compression free as compared to those, which is like pretty much hard plastic. Okay, so and you can also service those by loosening it and take everything out and clean it properly using alcohol, whatever you need. So very versatile kit, and that's pretty much all comes in this professional kit. That's it. Okay, so the next, I am going to pick what I need for bleeding the bike and just put everything else away so we can do a full, let's see. We're going to do a full service for the front and back of the Guide R 4-piston brake on the stump jumper. This is a 2018 stump jumper comp alloy, which comes with a Guide R brakes. Okay, so let me get started, and I'll show you guys the process. All right, so I'm going to actually connect those syringes first. Very easy to do. The hardware are very, very high quality, okay? And everything's already pre-installed and pre-calibrated and with O-rings already attached. So all you have to do is pretty much just snap those on and it's ready to go. Again, my bike have a bleeding edge, bleeding caliper port for the rear and front calipers. So I'm going to be using the bleeding edge tool, and this is for the lever, which is standard. All you have to do, again, just attach those and get them ready. Now also comes with a T8 wrench, a T10 to T25 wrench. So pretty much everything you need to service and remove the brake calipers are included, free of charge, okay? And this is an additional one. I'm gonna leave it just in one of the plastic bag. Also, those additional accessories, I would suggest just, put them in a Ziploc bag and save it for later. Any other bleeding blocks that you do not need, once you find out which one you need, leave it on the side. And this way your workspace is a lot better organized, and it should make the job easier. Now to get ready, it's better to have your tools all laid out. So for me, I have some paper towels, some tissues, some alcohol for cleaning the additional brake fluid, whatever that's missed, and some Torx wrench or hex wrench. I'm sorry. So the next thing, we're gonna go to the bike. All right, on the bike, you don't have to do much. Basically, remove the axles if you haven't already done so. It's a good time to also clean your brakes and around the brake pad area. The next thing, you need to use one of those wrench. Now, we need to remove the caliper, and obviously it's not the T8. I'm thinking T15. Yep. Okay. Sorry, T10. So you use a T10 wrench to remove this, but before you do that, there's a little pin over here that you need to unplug. So unplug the pin and remove the brake pads. Good time to clean the brake pads with alcohol while it's off. And also make sure you don't really mix the front and rear. So make sure you know which one is front, which one is rear, and put them back in the same order, in the same place as necessary. Okay, right here. So let's just do the rear brake bleed because the front is going to be exactly the same, and I think rear is easier to show you guys. So the bleeding port is right here, which you need to use a hex wrench. Let's see, probably a size 4. Yes, so you need to use a hex wrench to gently turn and then turn back, but not tighten it. Okay, so that's just to get it ready to use the bleeding edge tool right there. But as I said, with everything removed, it's a good time to clean the brake pad area. Nice and gentle with alcohol. Now I don't have a spray bottle, so I'm just gonna dip some alcohol and then just clean everything. It's also used to clean the brake fluid once you finish with the bleeding process. Okay, and we're also trying to find out the actual, well, piston area is really dirty, so I might do some additional clean for the piston area, use more alcohol and Q-tip, and then come back and continue. All right, if you guys can see, I actually found the perfect block for the guide R brakes. It's a 4-piston block, so you can tell by those 2 piston areas over there. And this is a size medium. So it looks like size medium is going to be a perfect fit for the guide. It's easier to tell if you need a single piston, which doesn't have the little wavy area over here, or a dual piston. So when you see this one, it's for ultimate, and it's got 2 pistons over there, and the thickness of the ultimate is actually much thicker than the medium that I need for the guide R. So for the guide R, all I have to do, align the holes, and supposedly you need to use a screw to realign the hole and make sure it doesn't move around, but I don't think it's necessary because it's gonna stick onto it really nicely. But just to be safe, I can always just put this little bolt back on here so it doesn't move around or drop onto the floor and ruin the bleeding process. Okay, and you don't have to tighten it so it doesn't, just so it doesn't move around. You can see this thing actually extends out all the way. And we're done with prepping the rear brake. I also loosened the screw here, and in theory now is a moment that I fill the syringe with some .4 fluid and get it ready. So I'm gonna do that for both front and back. For the rear, I need the bleeding edge, and SRAM's instruction is fill it to as much as possible, and or like 2/3, and with the front filled with just a little bit. And how you push the existing fluid out is you use a fresh fluid, push it in to expel the existing fluid onto the top lever, which is pretty straightforward process. So I'm going to get the fluid filled for both the front and back, and I'm going to actually put the bleeding edge tool in here just to get it ready to bleed, and then we'll start that process really quick. Again, this is not a complete bleeding guide. I just want to show you guys how it works. So for the complete bleeding guide, you should go to the SRAM website, which have a very clear instruction on how to do it. Okay. All right. So now let's take a look at the lever over here. This is for the rear. As you can see, it's a little spongy at this moment. So hopefully with the bleeding, it could be less spongy for the rear brake. The front actually works fine. However, I'm not gonna do the front just to show you guys and save your time. But in order to service the front, you need to make sure your reach adjustment for the lever is all the way out, so as extended as possible. Instead of let's see. So instead of going closer, you want it to go as far away as possible. So just click it until it's totally out, and that's the best place for bleeding. The access port is right here. We just need to loosen it with the provided wrench right here. Now, make sure you have rugs everywhere so brake fluid doesn't, spill to different places. On the bottom, I have some sort of cardboard to get any fluid that's going to drop out. And over here we have, looks like this is also a T10. So we're going to use a T10 instead of the T8. I don't know what the T8 is for. Yeah, that's a T10. All right, so let's see if I can loosen it. All right, so it's very easy to loosen, okay? So I'm gonna get the fluid ready and attach both the front and back onto those brakes, and I'm just gonna start bleeding for the first time. And again, this is not a guide on how to, because the SRAM have a very good guide. At the end of the bleeding, I'm gonna come back and we're gonna check to see whether the sponginess is gone or not. All right, so as you can see, I got some brake fluid already inserted into the syringe in the front. And again, as I push the rear of the bleeding port using a bleeding edge, the front should have all the old fluid coming out. Right now, the fluid color is pretty clear. This is brand new 5.1 dot fluid. Let's see once I push the fluid out how dirty the old fluid is, and then we can make an assessment in a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. This is the rear end. I also have this already filled with fluid. Get all the air bubbles removed according to SRAM instructions. Bleeding edge head goes in there. Again, I cleaned this area very thoroughly, so we're gonna try to, once you push this in here, it's a little click. Once you push it in here, turn it counterclockwise about one turn to open up the bleeding port. So the bleeding port is actually open now, and as I push the fluid again, I'm gonna release the lever here at the front, or the clamp. Okay, so I release the clamp, and I'm gonna release the clamp here. In theory, once I start pushing, let's see. Once I start pushing, it should push the old fluid out. Okay, so let's see how it works. Yep. The old fluid is out to the other side. Actually pretty dirty. I'm gonna actually show you guys from the other view, since I'm just gonna be pushing this way. So it looks like I definitely need to repeat this process a few times, because the old fluid is kind of like a yellowish color, and it's got quite a lot of sediments at the bottom. Wow, pretty dirty. All right, and what you want to do is make sure there are no air bubbles going into the system, okay? And you have to press kind of a little bit harder And once the back is almost out, you don't want to push all the way out. You stop this, you clamp it. Okay, and I'm also gonna clamp the front, and I'm gonna get some fresh fluid and just again get the old darker fluid out completely of the system. Okay, so I'm gonna clamp this area, and the cool thing about this is I can always just unscrew and dump the stuff, or I can unscrew here and start dumping the stuff. Again, make sure no fluid gets dripped anywhere. I don't want to get really dirty. So let me dump the fluid here by just unscrewing this. Oh, wrong bolt. Okay, I want to unscrew the bottom bolt. And hopefully nothing comes out. Yep, so it stays there, a little bit of air bubble, but dispose this according to your local regulations. And I'm gonna keep it in a bottle and recycle it at my local recycling center. And that's what I'm gonna do. So I dumped it into a container for now. I'm gonna reconnect this and disconnect the rear and get some fresh fluid, and we're gonna flush it one more time. Hopefully, I think 2 times is enough to get the dirty fluid completely out. Okay. All right. So I'll show you guys how I disconnect the back one. Okay. So exact same thing. I have everything still clamped, and I'm just gonna unscrew this. Get a paper towel. Actually, I think for the bleeding edge, it might be easier for me to just take the whole thing out. So I'm going to close the port, turning it clockwise completely, and try to push this out. So there's no fluid being wasted, no air bubble introduced. I can suck more fluid and get this refilled and bleed it one more time. All right, should have no or minimal amount of air bubble. That's good. We're gonna lock it up. Once it's locked up, we're gonna actually push it back in here and turn on the bleeding port. Okay. So this is a very nice system, very easy to use. We're gonna turn counterclockwise to open it. 1 full turn and never more than 2 turns. Okay, otherwise fluid is all gonna get squeezed out. So 1 full turn, and we are there. I'm gonna get ready to loosen both clamps and have the fluid replaced in here one more time. Okay. All right. Let's do it. Gonna push. All right, now the fluid is a lot more clear compared to before, the one that's coming out. So I think it's gonna work really nicely. And once we have the fluid replaced, we can look at bleeding and getting the air bubble out as much as possible. Okay, so the fluid goes in, looks about the same color as the fluid goes out. I would say we should successfully bleeded the brake or replaced the fluid. And I'm gonna clamp this and closing the port, turning clockwise, fully close it and take it out. All right, guys, so I finally got the braking procedure complete. Again, just following the SRAM's bleeding procedure, and did a test. So it stops and it's not spongy anymore. So The old brake fluid, I'm going to show you guys, is really dirty. Okay, so it's like black, and got all the nasty stuff out, and it's clear fluid inside. So the rear brake bleeding is complete. Now I'm gonna just tackle the front, and again, front is gonna be easier because there's gonna be less issue with the air bubble, because the rear brake have to go through a pretty long line, and the line also gets a downward slope and things like that. So getting air bubbles out of the rear actually took quite a lot of times of video. Okay, but I got all the air bubbles out, and it stops right here. It's not spongy. Okay, just have a firm stop once it hits a brake pad. So we did the rear successfully. Now we're gonna come to the front and just tackle the front really quick. Again, the front is a straight line going from bottom to top, so this should have less air bubble issue. And just showing you guys what I'm doing, sharing some experiences. But so far, the bleeding kit has been working excellent. It's pretty much compressionless, so it's very easy to draw the air bubble out from the rear. Took a couple turns, but the air is out. Okay, so I'm gonna continue, finish the front, and then we're gonna come back and do a conclusion on what I think about this professional brake bleed kit from SRAM. So I have just finished with bleeding the front and rear of my specialized stump jumper that I bought used. What I think about the experience bleeding those brakes, I think the tool performed exactly as intended, and they did provide a lot more different varieties of bleeding kits for different brakes, pretty much covering every possible SRAM brake out there. However, if you have a modern brake, the most likely you're gonna need is just the bleeding edge tool and a traditional bleeding kit. That's pretty much all you need. The compressionless syringe definitely helps with getting rid of the last bit of bubbles. So the brake right now, it's like nice and firm, like when I press the lever, you know, there's no spongy feel at all. The entire process is easy to follow, but my final opinion is that I still prefer Shimano hydraulic disc brake bleeding procedure, and also I still prefer a mineral oil as opposed to a DOT fluid that's being used on the SRAM brakes. But in terms of performance, you know, SRAM, Shimano, they all perform very similarly, and the procedure is actually different. So if you have both a bike with Shimano disc brake and a SRAM disc brake, you're gonna need two different kind of bleeding kits, which is a hassle. And again, personally, I prefer the bleeding procedure on the Shimano, and also mineral oil as opposed to DOT fluid. But that's just me. Hopefully you guys found this bleeding or demonstration video helpful for you guys for the SRAM professional bleeding kit. If you did, please do hit the like button or subscribe to the channel. And again, this bleed kit includes everything possible to bleed every kind of SRAM brakes, and it also includes additional barb wires, the compression kits to install any kind of brand new brake hose that haven't been installed before. Or if you need to use this bleeding kit to shorten your brake hose, this kit comes with everything. Otherwise, that's it. And yeah, do subscribe if you want to see more mountain bike related videos, and I should have more coming out for you guys. Thanks again, and see you in the next video. Take care.